This is the AD History Podcast.
So the next person that I think we really need to take a serious look at in this film, Patrick, because it is off the wall, is the person of John Cairncross, who they show working with Alan Turing in Hut 8, which he most certainly did not do.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you are familiar with the Cambridge Five.
Yes, I'm somewhat familiar with them, but if you want to share some more light on them, that'd be amazing.
The Cambridge Five were five undergraduate students in the early 1930s attending Cambridge as undergraduates that were recruited by Soviet intelligence.
Yeah.
Years
Spies.
before they would ever actually assume positions of value to Soviet intelligence. These fives were Donald McLean, Guy Burgess, Kim Philby, Anthony Blunt, and John Cairncross. And part of the idea with the Cambridge Five when they were originally recruited in the early 30s, which was from the Soviet perspective, an absolute batshit crazy time to actually be recruited, given the purges that were about to break out throughout the 30s that were undertaken by Stalin, of which the NKVD, which would later effectively become the KGB, most certainly became a target of, as well as being the instrument of. And Cairncross is largely considered the fifth guy that they didn't figure out about until years later. So, guys, if you are listening or watching to this at home and you are not familiar with the story of the Cambridge Five, go look it up because it is ridiculous. It is so interesting. Well, in any case, Cairncross was at Bletchley Park, but he was not in Hut 8. I think he might have been a translator, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
And in the film, obviously they show him working with Alan Turing, and quite critically, they see him trying to blackmail Alan Turing. Basically, that Cairncross knew he was gay, and when Alan Turing kind of put it together that Cairncross was passing intelligence from the park onto the Soviets, that I will expose you if you expose me. This definitely didn't happen.
No.
This definitely didn't happen. One is they didn't work together at Hut 8. There's no evidence that they ever met at Bletchley Park. And as far as I can tell, Patrick, there's no evidence that they had ever met at all.
That's ludicrous how much they changed that. He's like Alan's closest friend in the film in Hut 8. And
yeah, they kind of make him buddy up.
Yeah, and the reality of the matter was they never really met one another.
Not a chance.
That's terrible.
It is. And so, of course, Alan, when he later shows, what's his face, Menzies, in Joan Clark's apartment, and he makes it appear as if that Menzies is somehow, for whatever reason, has Joan Clark in captivity to try to get Turing to admit that he's some kind of Soviet agent. He spills the beans on John Cairncross. And of course, that's not the reason at all in the film why Menzies was there. But then Menzies, once again, in a demonstration of his vast overcompetency compared to reality, says, oh yeah, we know, that's why we put him there. There's a problem with this, Patrick. They didn't find out about Cairncross's espionage work for the benefit of the Soviets until decades later.
So, yeah, like, it's the big reveal at the end of this film. Like, because earlier on it sets up the fact that there is a spy somewhere in Bletchley Park, and obviously it pays it off towards the end, and you find out who it was. But it didn't happen like that at all in real life, clearly.
In fact, one of the interesting things about Bletchley Park is naturally the British and the Americans were in a shotgun military coalition with the Soviets fighting the Germans after Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union in June of 1941. And the British would pass along helpful information that they got from these decrypts to the Soviets. However, they never told the Soviets its source. In fact, they would funnel it through other existing intelligence operations on the continent. So I believe one of them was, maybe it was the Red Orchestra they did it through, or was it the one in Switzerland? I forget. The point is, they always made sure that they obfuscated the source of this intelligence because they did not trust the Soviets enough to be able to say, oh yeah, this is what we're doing to get the information. In fact, the only people that they shared what are effectively the family silver with was the Americans. So they're always very much protecting the source. And in this case, the thing that I really don't like about this is I understand why the writers did this because they wanted to show a depiction of his vulnerability based on the fact he was gay and how he was so susceptible to blackmail. However, the way this goes down, until Alan is literally what he thinks is his back up against the wall, he's basically aiding and abetting somebody who's committing treason in the most sensitive parts of the war effort. And I gotta tell you, that's not exactly doing any favors to the depiction of Alan Turing.
No, that's kind of worse than, that's like a worse crime at the time than being gay. Like actually giving out war information, that's awful.
It is. I mean,
intelligence,
based on the fact that you sign the Official Secrets Act, where you basically can talk about nothing in this regard, the fact that they even flirt with the idea that he could have been a traitor himself by aiding and abetting Karen Cross is seriously libeling the dead, in my estimation, especially for a film that's trying to depict Alan Turing, which I don't think should be that difficult, in a very good light. There's a lot of really wonderful things about the man where you don't need to put this kind of crap into it.
No, like it's so strange. You have to wonder, like, obviously it has done great stuff for Alan Turing, but if you know the history, you are like, gosh, this does not portray the man in a great light at all.
No, it really, really doesn't, and it drives you absolutely batshit insane.
To defend this film by any means, I do think as a British person, where Alan Turing came from, I do feel that this film did help raise his stature in the public eye an awful lot more. I think there are a lot of people who probably didn't know who Alan Turing was before this film. I noticed, when did this film come out? 2013, 2012, did we
2014.
say? Came out 2014, so Turing got the royal pardon in 2013, which pardoned, obviously it was too little too late. The man had been dead for about 40 years by then, 50, 60 years even. But it shows us, it helps us then, obviously, as I've sort of mentioned as well, by now Turing now appears on our £50 note here in the UK. I think part of his notoriety, his fame as a person, as a historical figure, has come about due to this film. I think it was because of this film more people know about Turing. I believe it was recently in a poll he was voted the most important Briton ever. Like, he's highly regarded now, and I can't help but think that this film didn't play a role in that, for better or worse.
It does. The thing I have against it, and as we were talking about earlier, when you and I go and sit down and watch a historically based film,
yes,
we don't have the expectation that everything is going to be depicted perfectly to the historic record.
No,
and there are a lot of good reasons you don't want to do that.
It'd be boring AF.
But the problem with this film, in so much as it's trying to depict the genius and tragedy of Alan Turing's life, in doing so, it literally sacrifices a ton of extremely important factual information along the way, to the point where it's not only libeling people that were around him, it's also not giving an accurate depiction of who this guy was and what he experienced. So I do think that there is, at least in tone, and to some degree, more so in detail than this particular movie chooses to depict, a bit more accuracy, and not going off and doing what I think are just mindlessly stupid things like this.
Be sure to follow and subscribe for upcoming AD History podcast episodes, available wherever podcasts are found.